preparation for the next AIS, which is in 2024, began the very day we ended AIS 2023. So I have a whole year to plan, because you have to plan financially, plan physically, plan mentally, and even mechanically you have to plan. So going around the country in 7 days is a big deal. I mean, you can take your time and do a tour of Ghana without putting so much stress on yourself and then on the machine. But going for 7 days really puts a lot of stress on you, the person, and then on the machine. So you have to prepare adequately, because it's not easy. Fuel, hotel, a support vehicle, putting mechanics in, putting security, and then even a medic, also not cheap, you know. So financially also have to be there, and then map out a route. I have someone who does the mapping for me. I could see a very good guy. He does the mapping for me. He calls me, I sit down with him, we look at it holistically. Sometimes you have to change one or two things on the map, and sometimes the map is just perfect.
The way we planned our activities, ideally, it's idealistically, it's workable. But in reality, it was really, really, really difficult to hit such targets with this large number of groups with varying experience and varying personalities. We could have hit every target we had made, but
all good.
Like I said, we had varying personalities, we had varying skill levels, which affects the dynamic, the speed at which, the rate at which we move at, and we had varying conditions, like health conditions.
Everybody on the AIS train, one way or the other, impacted AIS. I'll begin by mentioning Ahmed Wadrago, our road captain, route mapping, briefing, and all that. The guy who will take the bullet before it gets to all of us. Fantastic guy, very level-headed, very, very humble, and a super good rider. Even though he rides a bike that doesn't befit him, a BMW GS 1250. I hope he gets a Japanese bike. I mean, he will become better.
Have you seen a GS going up? When you see a GS, you see this fat cow, they call it, and it goes up like this. It's so majestic. Look at this grasshopper. This grasshopper doing like this is normal. But look at the cow. When the cow does this, you're like, wow. A cow doing something it's not expected to do.
Ahmed is on the third AIS, and he made the first one by luck. Someone opted out at the very last minute, and then I called him in. So he wasn't meant to have been on the first one. It was only because someone dropped out. And then I phoned him. I said, Ahmed, are you still interested in AIS? Because he's been calling me every now and then wanting to go. But because we cap it at a certain number, I said, Ahmed, I have the required number. I can't take anyone anymore. But he was fortunate enough for someone to drop out last minute. And then I called him. I said, Ahmed, are you still interested in AIS? He said, yes, very much so. Okay, make sure your bike is in good shape. Make sure this and that are in place, and then we can go. In the next second, Ahmed was on board. And he's been fantastic so far. He's done AIS 1, done AIS 2, done AIS 3. If you talk to the other riders on the ride, they'll shower a lot of praises on Ahmed. Has been a very good lead rider. Mapping out the routes, our day-to-day. In fact, there's a general map, but on daily basis, sometimes the maps do change. And Ahmed is very good with, he knows a lot of areas around Ghana. And it's one of the reasons why I chose him as a captain for our second ride, and I maintain him as a captain for the third. I believe our captain has some.
Good morning all.
Good morning.
So, thank you for coming out to do this. And I hope I'm going to be able to take all of you safely around Ghana and come back. So, we have a policy we work with. Everyone is going to be paired up. Everyone is going to be paired up so that at least everyone has some.
One thing I also like about Ahmed very much is the fact that He's a pious Muslim. If you're on the ride and it's time for prayers, Ahmed will stop and say, please, I need to communicate with my maker. And so we all respect that, and so we all would give him that opportunity or chance to go and say a prayer before coming on board again. The very first AIS, he wasn't the captain, he was, I think, the fourth or fifth rider. I'm always the last rider. And so even if everyone is ahead, if someone has a problem, I'll definitely come and meet the person. Ahmed did a lot of charity. And I'm not sure a lot of people noticed it because he'll just pull aside and ask the rest to follow. But I will come and meet him, give him money to people by the roadside. And you know he's a Muslim. They believe a lot in this. And I don't think a lot of people saw it because anytime he pulls by the side, he will say they should go. But I will come and meet him in the act, giving money to people, and I applauded him for that. He's a super fantastic guy. If Ahmed will partake in every AIS, I'll make Ahmed the road captain. The next person I'll mention is Rosina, my wife. Already giving her credit for the one who came up with the name around in 7. She's always wanted to be on AIS, but I told her, look, AIS is difficult. You have to pace yourself. She wanted to be on the first one. I told her no. She wanted to be on the second one. I told her no. But I prepared her adequately for the third trip. She did super fantastic. I mean, I thought she was going to give up by day 3, but she kept going. She kept going and finished with us. She started with us and finished with us, and she did marvelously well as the only lady rider on the ride. I thought at a point she would just say, I've done my best and I'm female, it's okay. I've done what many haven't done. But she went through to the end and she deserves a lot of praise for that. Now, one other reason why I'll praise her a lot is the fact that her bike wasn't a typical adventure bike. You know, the adventure bikes have been so made so as to cater for our harsh roads and all. Her bike is a touring bike, which is more road friendly than off-road friendly. So we did a few changes to the bike, changed a few tires, gave it a belly pan or a skid plate to protect the engine, and 1 or 2 changes. And she did marvelously well with a bike that is not, as it were, made for the kind of things we were doing. Yes, she did very well.
Rosie did very well. But her bike, next year, I don't think she should use a bike like that on the shoot because it drained her more than it drained the others. The Tracer wasn't made for adventure, it was made for sports touring. That is having good road all throughout. If you get bad road, you are going to run into trouble. So that drained Rosie a lot. So that was already a headache for her, how to handle her bike from day 1 till day 7. Like Dan said, he was expecting her to give up after day 2. So I think it was a sabotage by giving her that bike. But he was able to hold her grounds and manage it from day 1 to day 7. So coming back to her riding skills, they are good enough. But like I said, she was already having a lot in her hands with her bike. I told her I sat on a bike and I was wondering how. And funny enough, before my incident happened, I sat on her bike and I said, hey, how are you managing the potholes with this bike? Just a few minutes before my incident happened. So, like I was saying, the bike was a lot on her, so she wasn't able to actually access her surroundings and the other bikers very well. But that was when she was in the midst. But when she came behind me, she had only one focus, bike, me. So it reduced the responsibility of thinking of the others. So that helped. So the next person is Philip. Philip having the experience of AIS 2. Skill, very okay. Again, I think he was able to look out for others. He was able to hold his ground. He was able to handle himself well in all situations. So that is okay. I think with Phil, that is fine.
Philip is a second timer as a complete novice. So I had to coach him along the line. And so when he announced that he wanted to come on the second ride, I said, wow, he wants to show that he can really do it. And I encouraged him. I gave him all the tips I could give him. A very, very humble guy. A very good team player. One who can manage situations. He does very well. And so when he said he wanted to go for the second one, I said, yeah, we have a fantastic team. Yes, so Philip, come on board. A great guy by our standards. He did his first AIS, which is the second one on a Japanese bike, Africa Twin CRF 1100L. But he says that bike is a bit heavy for him. So he stepped down to a BMW GS 850. David Adomako learned riding with me, just like Philip. David started riding, I think sometime in 2020, August. I actually almost made him the deputy road captain, but knowing David, who is a very humble guy, he doesn't want to be in the limelight, he declined and says, oh, he wants to be in the background. But David has been marvelous. He's done 3 AISs, and that's, like I keep saying, to do 1 and do 2 and do 3, because it's not easy. I asked David to come on board because of the way he processes stuff, the way he thinks about things. His judgment is superb.
King D, my senior counsel. King D has AIS 1, AIS 2, AIS 3, so I think he knew what to expect. Ready, skill, excellence. He knew how to handle himself in situations, so I think skill-wise, he was good. He was good as well. Fabian, our realist. Fabian, there's one thing about Fabian I really appreciate aside the realism, which is it's the realism. If he goes and he sees a challenge and he knows he can't do it, he's plainly said, he doesn't hold an ego, he doesn't have an ego. I can't do it, come and do it for me. I really appreciated that about him. When he gets to a place and he sees it's challenging, nope, I'm not doing this. Someone should come and take it. If you can't do it, please take my bike and do it. I'm going to the car, which is excellent as a rider. If you don't see a challenge and hope or be overconfident, you get yourself in situations. So, Fabian, excellence for being so real with everything, every single situation. He's 100% real. I think it comes from being European.
I'm afraid it's not going and coming, it's going and continuing. It's going, and then at some point it still runs, but that's far. But it's 30 kilometers on this.
20 kilometers.
30 kilometers.
30. Yeah, we can do it. To what?
No. To the hippo.
Okay, yeah, so we should do it.
Fabian was the realistic guy in the group. He will look at the map, he will look at the number of hours remained. When others are saying, let's go, we can make it, Fabian will say, no, realistically, we cannot do this. And he's been proven right many, many times. So Fabian was on AIS too. He had a lot of issues with our timing and our map, because we're dealing mainly with, we can do it, let's go. We can do it, let's go. But then Fabian will come in and say, you know what? Yes, we can do it, but we'll be taking ourselves out of our comfort zones. If something goes wrong, it will go very wrong. So let's do it this way rather. So when I did the map for AIS3, the first person I showed it to was Fabian. I said, Fabian, take a look at this map and give me your inputs. He gave me a whole lot of inputs, which I inputted in the map, and that made this what it was. So Fabian, I wish I would have Fabian or a Fabian on every AIS. He's the guy who makes sure that, look, in as much as we are hopeful that we can do this, let us also be very realistic. Only I want him to do a lot more cardio so that he can climb the mountains with us, he can go into the caves with us. But he's a super fantastic guy.
the biggest surprise. Edem. When we came for our first meeting before we moved, when I saw Edem and they said Edem just started riding a few months, and the questions he was 6 months, and the questions he was asking at the meeting, I was like, oh boy, this is going to be something. So I told King D, since King D also started the same way, so King D, you are going to handle Edem. So I actually paired them. But Charlie, at some point, Edem was the one leading the pack, right? At some point of the trip, Edem was the one in front of the whole pack leading. So I gave him the name Fire Service because the guy was gunning. He was able to handle, and for being an automatic bike, a DCT, and not a manual, I'll give him best performance, because where we need clutch to be able to control, he doesn't have a clutch. All he has is the accelerator. The slightest mistake and the bike is gone. There's no control. You have to control, what's the name? You have to control throttle control. That is the only thing Edem was working with. In the sand, on the road, in traffic where we have to hold clutch and manage ourselves. Edem, slightest mistake, he's entering the next bike or he's entering any car, but that didn't happen. So best performing biker for me on this trip was Edem. I would give it to him hands down.
So Edem is someone who loves comfort. So that's one of the things that I thought was going to be a minus for him. Once you take Edem out of his comfort zone, he becomes worried. He loves comfort. So when he heard that there was a bike that's automatic, he says he wants the automatic bike. He doesn't want anything else. But that's the thing. When you are off-road, the automatic is not the best. When you are on road, the automatic is luxurious, because once you start accelerating, you can't, all you have is your accelerator and then brake. But with the manual bikes, you have a clutch that you can, as it were, if you don't want to go too fast, you can regulate it with the clutch. If you don't want to go too slow, you can regulate it with the clutch. But with the automatic, it's difficult to do that with only the accelerator. So on road, the automatic works perfectly well in terms of comfort. Off-road is the opposite of it. But he went and he came back superb. Yes, I saw him struggle at some points because sometimes he revs and then he over revs. But he had to quickly make up for it, and he did very well. So having the automatic helped him in some areas. Having the automatic was a minus for him in some areas, but all in all, he did very well. For someone who has been riding for 7 months and doing over 2,700 kilometers in 7 days, back to back, he did very well.
Next, Mono. What can I say about Mono? Rastaman. He has his bike, he knows his bike knows him. That's all I can say. They complement each other. So Mono, tip-top skill. He's skilled, he's with AWOL, so he has been doing this. It's not new to him, so he's up there already. So nothing to say about Mono, too high.
Mono rides a KTM 1090 Adventure. Mono swears by the KTM, and I like that about him. He knows what he's riding. He knows what to do for the bikes to get them running. Mono is someone I've been riding with since Adam. A very experienced rider. He's as experienced as I am. Even more experienced when it comes to off-road riding.
Yeah. When you see sand, don't sit down. Yeah, stand up and then let the bike come out. Or if you sit down, it will take.
Mono, pass inside the bush so that they will follow you. Check the bush.
Who will help this? You will help out.
So he helped me a lot because he was one of the experienced guys, and when the going got tough, I needed people who were experienced to help me take decisions. Mono did fantastic.
When I'm using my African twin, I think I've fallen with the African twin a couple of times because of its weight. When it balances to one side, I can't hold it anymore. But some way, somehow, Jerril is able to handle the African twin with its weight and its height. Jerril surprised me for his height and handling that bike. I'll give him 110 for being able to handle an African twin with the height he has, because it's technically tiptoeing.
So Jerril was supposed to have been on the second AIS, but he missed it. And so when he announced that he wanted to be part of AIS, I said, Jerril, are you sure? He says, I'm 100% sure. I mean, he's someone who has been riding for long. So, and he knew what to expect on AIS because he was following AIS 1, following AIS 2, and so he was kind of prepared for AIS 3. It was just unfortunate that he got dehydrated, got locked fingers, and had a fall when we were coming from Cape 3 points. But he recovered quickly, and on the next ride, he was on it, and he did super fantastic. On the first AIS, we had just one tenere. On the second AIS, we had just one tenere. And so the tenere was feeling lonely. So having Senna come on board with another tenere, I mean, I'm sure it made the tenere very, very happy. The only thing about Senna that he has to work on is he gets too excited. He gets too excited. When he gets excited, nothing can stop him. I mean, but I believe as we go along, he would work on his excitement levels, and then he will become a better rider if he works on his excitement levels.
After Dan, he's the one with the wheelie skills before Mono comes. Mono also has the wheelie skills. Being real here, I think Transporta was very excited. I think that's the right word. He was too excited on the trip. That's the word. He has the skill perfectly fine. He knows what to do. He knows how to do it. But he was taking certain risks that was even me as a captain, it was getting to me. He was taking so much risk. He was taking so much risk. And I had a conversation with him, and he said that is how he is. He's risky. He takes risk. If it happens, it happens. So, like I said, different personalities. That is Transporta. He takes the risk. If it happens, it happens. That's it. Even when he drives, that is what he does. You face the car. It's either you leave the road or I hit you. That is it. That is how he's a risky guy. He takes the risk because he has the skill 100%. But the advice I can give him is he should tone it down. He should tone it down because Charlie, he scares me. He scares me. But he scares me. He really scares me. Skill 100%, but judgments, because you can't live your life in the hands of the next person to take the right decision. Because he puts all out there. He has risked it. I'm coming to you. It's either you leave or I enter you. You get it? So you are putting your life in the hands of the other person. So it puts you at a very high risk level. So that is my opinion on Transporta's riding. Dan, there's nothing to say. There's nothing to say. Dan, we all know Dan. Most of the people on the trip, he taught us how to ride. Even though I didn't learn from GSA, I've never been to the GSA grounds. I've learned a lot from him by just watching what he does. I used to know how to clutchless shifts, but I mastered it watching Dan. I know that, if I'm right, I can clutchless shifts, but from Dan, I learned how to perfect it. So he's on a level of his own. There's not much I can say about his skill aside from being up there with Mono and Transporta. I think Edem will be joining them soon. So I'm right behind them. Yes, so I think that is about it.
That's more different than the dust.
Yeah. This one is the whole you.
Very fine.
And it's deep. Padaro cow.
Asa?
That's
Finish hard.
I mean, I kid you not. It was a real challenge. Deep sand is a challenge. Deep, soft sand. It's a lot of technique and hope for the best. Basically, that's what it is. I mean, you do what you can do and hope for the best. I was fortunate. Let's see what happens tomorrow.